And little thing we didn't talk about earlier is the door button mechanism. You can see there's a mechanical component of that. It's just held in with 2 screws. I've never had to fix that, but if you did, then that's how you would attach it. So I guess at this point we can think about removing the front plastic case, which is something we'd want to do maybe for a deep clean purposes. But there's 2 ways you can get at the channel meters, and one is to remove the back panel like that, and that gives you enough access to get at this. But then there's a separate board with the 2 smaller master meters, and you can't access those without taking the front plastic case off. I would suggest that generally speaking it's easier to remove the front plastic case whilst leaving that black plastic panel still attached to the chassis here than to do what I just did. I'm just kind of meandering through this task because it's early morning, I've got my coffee and waiting to go to my shitty day job. If my employer's watching, I apologise. I value my work. Thank you for putting food on my table. So it's fairly easy to identify which screws are going into the front plastic case and not holding on some other board, because say here you can see that the screw here is going through 2 pieces of metal, whereas this screw here is only going through 1. If it's only going through 1, then it is attaching the chassis to the front case. So we've got 1 here, I've got 1 up here in the top corner. I'll just bring that into the shot. Got 1 here in the bottom left corner. You'll recall that there was one that goes through a whole metal plate at the front of these 2 boards I removed earlier by accident. There's 1 here, just below the transformer. Another one in here. I wonder if I can tip that so it's visible on the camera. There, you see that? And you know, these are your wide ferrule brass screws. Remember, this is where I was saying earlier, I was showing you an indent. That's from that screw there. So you need to use the slightly shorter of these lengths. If you use really long ones, then you're going to leave a little impression on the plastic case on the far side. Is that all of them? Yeah, so I think that those screws I've just demonstrated in combination with the 4 along the black rear panel, I think that's all of the screws that attach to the front case. Let's see if that can lift out now. And you probably want to do this before you lift that front case off, but like I say, I'm rusty with this, so I forgot. There's a red cable here on the back of the power PCB, so that needs to be detached. At that point, we can access all the meters that are attached to the front plastic case here. The master meters and the channel meters are joined together by this ribbon cable, so there's no way to detach that without desoldering there. The attachment of that pair of master BUs is pretty simple, it's just 2 screws here. The attachment of the channel faders is more complex. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 these brackets, 2 of one type, 2 of the other. So that's what the bracket which goes below the VUs looks like. You would place it in with these downward angled tabs, angled down the way, and they sit either side of the central part of the meter on the white plastic on the far left and far right. Those 4 mounting posts are for the meters. This one is for attachment of the chassis to the front plastic case. So I've just removed those 2 brackets without the camera rolling. Here's the leftmost and final of the upper brackets for these channel meters. And here's the comparison of them. So this is for the upper and that's for the lower, and they go in that way. Notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes in the case so that you can reach these calibration trim pots. And here are the 2 trim pots for the master faders, so that's convenient, unlike the 244 where you have to have the case open in order to calibrate your meters. You can do it through holes in the case on this unit. There's slightly different fuses in the small and the large meter. These larger ones, they pop into metal brackets. It works pretty much the same way as the 244 VU opening and replacement of these sort of fuse type bulbs, which I've demonstrated. So you can refer to those videos if you want to do that. This is slightly different. It requires solder. I can confirm this is the same meters that are in some of Tascam's reel-to-reel machines. I suppose I've had the luxury of having enough spares units that I've never had to really track down and buy these bulbs, so I'm not exactly sure how they're labelled or how to order them. If anyone knows what they're called or where to order them, please comment, and I'll leave a comment below if after making this video I find a supplier for them. You can see that all these button caps for the shuttle controls are intact. As I demonstrated on 244 before, they can be fixed. You can use a combination of glue, spin welding and cut up bits of cable tie to repair these if needs be.